Okay, so the Vols won last night. Go Vols. And the Yankees are going to the World Series. Go Yankees. Life is good for another 6 days or so. Maybe 6 hours. The election is around the corner. So some of us may be a little anxious, or maybe a lot anxious. Some may be trying to interpret the tea leaves and see into the future by obsessively reading the polls. Some may very easily be in some reverie about what we would do if our candidate lost. Move to Canada, Mexico, south of France, as if we could somehow escape. And some of us might be, even though we have long considered ourselves above begging and pleading in our prayer, some of us are on our knees begging and pleading, please let us win. Any of you like this? Just maybe a little bit right now? We all have a little of James and John in us. Teacher, we would really like for you to do for us whatever we desire. Don't we so often think of our spiritual lives in this way? We do all this stuff so that we can get stuff, even if it's so-called spiritual stuff, like peace or happiness. And we want other stuff too, like maybe a better car, or more job security, or maybe a bigger house. We're not good at discomfort and uncertainty. James and John are not so different than we are. They want to be number one. They like to win. They'd love it if their candidate won the next election. And they're anxious about that he or she will lose. Okay, maybe that's not really what they were discussing, but it's close enough. Unfortunately, James and John haven't caught on to Jesus' lesson. In our passage today, this is going to be the third time in Mark's gospel that Jesus discloses to the disciples the nature of his mission, and really the nature of what it means to follow in Jesus' footsteps. The Greek word that we are translating as desire, or in our translation, what we ask for, has a connotation of craving. We want that you would give us what we crave, which may remind you a little bit of the craving of the people in the desert. They wanted meat, they wanted water. Give us what we lack. Now, James and John have only been traveling with Jesus for just a few months, maybe. We have been trying to walk this walk for years, and we don't really get it either. We're so distracted by our worries and our suffering and our difficulties and our discomfort that we turn away from our reality. We run away sometimes, whether it be into the fanaticism for a sports team, even though I am glad we won. Or in my case, it might be trying to figure out what else I should be doing with my life. We go looking for something else that will satisfy us. This isn't good enough. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't satisfying. What is it in our text that James and John crave? They want to sit at Jesus' right and left when he comes in his glory. What they want is a kind of power and status. They want to be looked up to. They don't want to be kicked around anymore. They want to make the Roman legionnaires grovel at their feet. They want to push them into the ditch when they walk down the road. They want to march into conquered cities with crowds, if not cheering, though that would be nice, then at least respecting them. Howard Thurman, that great teacher of Martin Luther King Jr., saw the Jews of Roman Palestine as a people with their backs up against the wall. And it might be easy to forget what it was like to be James and John. They're not the rich trying to get richer. They were non-entities. They're not unlike the children of their own society, the ones Jesus took just a few passages before this one and placed in the center and said, "You must become like one such as these." What James and John are asking for is to stop the humiliation. They want to stop being victims. They want power to give back what they have been given. They want to slap the Roman cheek, not turn their own. And so Jesus asked them, "Can you drink the cup I must drink? Can you be baptized in the same bath that I will be baptized in?" And they both say yes, because they really don't see, right? They really don't know what they are asking for. And Jesus says, "Surely this will happen to you. You will drink this cup. You will be baptized in this bath. But I can't promise you the glory you crave. That's not for me to grant." And I find this to be a really powerful part of this passage. Because for me, I hear what I consider a wisdom saying. It is for God to grant the final judgment on our lives and our actions. We really don't know exactly what impact our lives have had on the world. We don't really know what impact our actions have on others. Sometimes what we say or do has the exact opposite result than what we intended. Sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes it's for the worst. We can only do our part and leave the rest to God. Jesus is saying, you can do the acts that I am calling you to do, but in the end, it is up to God how things will turn out. To me, that's freeing. It's not that we're not responsible for our actions. We are responsible. It's that ultimately we are not completely in control of the longer-term effects. We need to do what we must, what we in our limited visions think is right and true and just. And then we must let go of the results. If the seed falls on good soil, excellent. And if it falls among the thin soil or on the rocks, so be it. And finally, Jesus tries to disclose again the nature of his mission and of the work to which he is calling his followers. You must serve. You must, like the Son of Man, give your life as a ransom, meaning you must spend your life working for liberation. For isn't that what a ransom is? It's something paid in order to free the captives or free the slaves. So it's not about winning the golden crown for ourselves. It's not about power and wealth and fame and acceptance and respect and lauds and honors. It's about serving. Now, I'm kind of surprised that Mark doesn't end this passage saying something like, "And many left him that day, sad, for he didn't deliver what they wanted. He didn't give them what they craved." That word ransom is a reference to the suffering servant poetry of Isaiah. We read some of it this morning. Jesus is taking on the mantle of the suffering servant. He is becoming Israel. Israel is the one who suffers exile and defeat and humiliation, who is scattered, 10 of the 12 tribes lost after the Assyrian invasion, who is scattered and unrecognizable And Jesus takes on that mantle. Jesus becomes Israel, becomes in his own self the people of God, and walks for them into the baptism of suffering and defeat and death. But not to simply wallow in that misery, but for a promise, for resurrection. So let us return then how we began. Our teams win. And it gives us some respite for a time, and we can enjoy that victory. But there are other realities that we must contend with. Would that our team always win. Would that our lives always be satisfying. Would that our bodies not age. Would that our spiritual practices never become boring. Would that we could figure this thing out and have some peace. But that's not the reality. Death in its many guises, disappointment, humiliation, poverty, ignorance, violence, sickness, homelessness, frailty, isolation, addiction, haunts us, confronts us. If we want to follow Jesus, we must be ready to face death, to summon some bit of wisdom and strength that allows us to act even in the face of death. To do so even when the drink is bitter and the baptismal waters cold. For the end of Mark's gospel says, even in its oldest versions, says that Jesus goes before you. There is this promise hidden in Jesus' message. The promise is this: service saves you. Giving fills you. Compassion heals you. The secrets of the universe and God's plans for it are beyond us, but the promise is not. If you want to be first, then be last. If you want to lead, then serve. If you want to live, then spend your life for others. Amen.